Hi, everybody. It's Sophia Mona Lisa of the Golden Race Center and the Rosewheel Mystery School. So this new video journal is entitled The Beacons of Gondor Have Been Lit. This is a very unique and a very special video journal that has unfolded as a result of personal experiences, and personal wisdom that has come through from Sophia. Let me rephrase that, not personal wisdom, wisdom for the collective that has come through from Sophia based on my personal experiences. And in fact, it is Sophia that gave me the name, The Beacons of Gondor Have Been Lit, for this video journal. Now, if you're not familiar with that phrase, it comes from the Lord of the Ring trilogy, specifically the third movie, The Return of the King. And this reference is going to make more sense to everybody by the time I complete the video journal. But essentially, the beacons of Gondor are lit in the movie when the world of man is bringing together all of the men, all of those that are in the world of man, to come together as one unified army in this final last stand against the all-seeing eye, which is the source of the dark power, the evil that's in Mordor, to finally take down the dark force. And so this is going to make much more sense to you in terms of Sophia's reference to this phrase, the beacons of Gondor have been lit, by the time I complete this journal. And hopefully you will be as excited about this as I am. Now, let me just say that I'm having a little trouble with my keyboard and moving these pages. Hold on just a second. Let me get my glasses on. Let me pause here and find out what's going on. Hold on a second. Okay, pardon me. Thank you for being patient. I just went ahead and put in my external mouse to make things easier as we move forward. So what I'm going to do, I mean, this has been really challenging for me to get this video journal out. And for my patrons who have been hearing me talking about this traumatic experience that I had October 31st, Halloween Day, and that a video journal was coming, this is it. This is the video journal. And it's been very challenging for me to get all of this put together in a way that hopefully you can follow, and in a way that I can share what unfolded through me so that you get what I get from what's been coming through. And so the easiest way for me to do that, because of my little autistic brain, is I've got to share it in the way that it unfolded so that I can make the connections between the pieces as I'm sharing it with you. So the reason I've got this little gold star here above October 31st is because everything that I am going to share with you in this journal unfolded because of the traumatic event that I had on October 31st, which relates back to information that came through on some of these earlier activations that you see on this timeline. And then it was the very next day when Sophia gave me that message, because I was confused about, well, how do I present this to them? And she said, the beacons of Gondor have been lit. Now, what I've discovered as I was putting all of this information is that the reason that most of the information I'm going to share with you today through this journal came through on October 31st, after that traumatic event that I experienced, is because when I looked at the chart to see what was going on in the sky, the Cosmic Sophia herself was standing at 29 degrees, 50 minutes of Libra. This is really incredible because she's almost at that completion of the mastery point to make her ingress from Libra to Scorpio. And at that 29-degree point, which is a mastery point, but 50 minutes, she's near to completing that mastery. She was making a square in the sky to Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto, who is all about alchemy, which you will see throughout this video journal. Pluto, who is all about in Capricorn, our standing in the power of our own self-eminence. For those of you that aren't aware, I used to talk about Capricorn and Pluto as our reclaiming our sovereignty, but I was guided to shift my language from sovereignty to self-eminence because sovereignty has become a spiritual buzzword. And so the Cosmic Sophia in the sky, making this square to Pluto and Capricorn around our self-eminence, this breakthrough in consciousness that the Cosmic Sophia wanted me to receive so that I could share this breakthrough in consciousness with you around what's transpired in October, specifically in terms of the Beacons of Gondor being lit, specifically with the Ring of Fire solar eclipse. And we know that the solar eclipse and lunar eclipse work together as a pair. So we're going to see me discuss back and forth what's happened. Okay. So this is the linear timeline. October 1st, the sacred masculine descended into the underworld from these Libran energies. October 10th, this is when the Venus gate activation of the portal of perception, right here, the third eye, and the 15th strand of DNA took place. October 14th was the Ring of Fire solar eclipse in Libra. Now, October 15th is important because it was on October 15th, the day after the solar eclipse in Libra, that those of us that are in the Galactic New Earth Project actually did the ceremonial piece to activate the 15th strand of DNA. And it was through that activation that I received the lost wisdom around the dragons, which I was inspired to share with you on October 28th, the day of the Taurus lunar eclipse. And I did that in my video journal entitled Taurus Lunar Eclipse, Synchronizations and Lost Wisdom. 3 days later, October 31st, is when I experienced this extremely traumatic event, which I'm going to tell you about. And I'll tell you how everything unfolded that day from then, which is a huge part of the wisdom that I'm going to be sharing in this journal. And then the next day, November 1st, was Samhain, and Sophia saying, the beacons of Gondor have been lit, and showing me exactly what that reference is in terms of the solar eclipse that happened in October. So I'm going to show you all of this. I wanted you to see this in terms of a linear progression, and yet we know things don't happen in a linear way. And so it's going to feel like I'm bouncing back and forth because I'm going to start here. I've kind of put this numbering system down here for you to follow along to help me as I'm sharing this with you and for you to kind of keep track of where we're going with all of this. The big thing to keep in mind as I'm sharing this with you is that this October 31st event happened between these two very potent days of the Taurus lunar eclipse on the 28th, and then the very next day of Samhain. And we'll talk about Samhain when we get there. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm calling Operation Scorched Earth. And as I do that, I'm going to have to give you some background information before you'll understand what this traumatic event is all about. Okay. So what you need to be aware of is where I live in a condominium association. It's 2 stories. I live upstairs. I have been here, I'm going into my 7th year, starting January. So I've been here 6 years. And for the entire time that I've lived here, 6 years of living here, the wasps have felt safe to build their nests above my front door. Now, the way that the unit is designed is there's like a little alcove where the front door is. And so probably, maybe a half a meter in is the alcove for the front door. And then, of course, it has like a little roof over the front door. And it's up there in the corners above the front door. I've got a screen door and then a regular door that for these 6 years, the wasps have been coming and building their nests and laying their eggs. And they have had a very harmonious relationship with me. They know that they were safe to be there. They knew that I wasn't going to bother them or disturb them. And likewise, they didn't bother me. They didn't disturb me. In 6 years, they were never once aggressive. They were never aggressive to me. I've had lots of visitors come and go. They were never aggressive to my visitors. And, every day I have to go outside a minimum of 4 times a day so that my little poodle can go potty. Never aggressive to my poodle. So as I said, we've developed this kinship over these 6 years. And so it's important from my perspective for you to understand what the medicine of the wasp as a totem represents, because clearly this is medicine that they were sharing with me and has also, in addition to what I've received from Sophia and Yeshua and Magdalene, helped in the evolution of the work that I've been sharing with you. So the wasps offer an incredible medicine to humanity. They are powerful female warriors, and they are shamanic healers. And some of the medicine that they offer, and this is just some of it, this is not an exhaustive list, is that they offer insight and wisdom. They bring order and discipline. They give you the power to break barriers. They offer protection and really support as well. They demonstrate communal living. They're about transformation and change, renewal and rebirth. They actually have the ability to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. And so in a WASP community, which is a community, I know some people might relate to a WASP community as a hive mind. I would take a little bit of an exception to that, because the wasps themselves are able to actually recognize each other by their faces. And they are able to individually determine whether someone in the community is requiring any kind of support or resources. And so they will choose to sacrifice resources from themselves to offer to another WASP in the community, and they will offer support to others in the community. Now, the community does have a queen, and I find it interesting because of the fact that we are in the midst of this Leo goddess journey, which is the divine royalty goddess journey. So this is where the queen archetype is really at play here. And so because of the queen, they also represent divine feminine energy. So it's really important for you to go into this with the understanding of what the wasp medicine is about, why it is significant to me as a shamanic priestess, and my relationship with them over these past 6 years, so that you can hopefully get the sense of the impact that this traumatic event had on me. So this is what happened. Oops, sorry. October 31st, I get up, I take Dolce out to go potty. Everything is normal. 2 or 3 hours later, she's letting me know she wants to go out again. I go and I open my front door, and I am hit energetically with this violent energy field. And I can see through the glass of my screen door hundreds of wasp courses on my front doormat and on the balcony outside my front door. And it is such a shock to me, such an unexpected shock to me, that my brain shuts down. I can't even kind of comprehend what's happened here, what caused this incredible destruction. So I open the door, I step out, and I look up, and I see that the nests are gone, and they're not on the balcony. This is when I am aware for the first time that somebody has come upstairs, has come to my front door, and has intentionally killed these wasps. And I call it Operation Scorched Earth, because that was the feeling that I had, seeing the massacre of these wasps and the killing field right there at the threshold of my front door. It was traumatizing. I was hysterical. I was in tears. And in the process of trying to find out from a neighbor next door, who did this? Why did they do that? My downstairs neighbor heard my hysteria through his open windows, came out and explained to me that the pest control guy doing the termite treatment told him there's hundreds of wasps up there, hundreds. And if they sting anybody who's allergic, they can die. And so they decided between themselves, or maybe, I don't know, because this is all secondhand, maybe the pest control guy said, I've got to kill them. Meanwhile, I was home. My car was in the parking lot. My downstairs neighbor knew I was home. He could see my car. He has my phone number, but they didn't knock on my door to tell me what the discussion was about and what the plan was. My neighbor didn't even call me or even text me to let me know what the pest control guy was going to do. And then the pest control guy not only kills all my wasps, but then he leaves them there. He doesn't even sweep them up and get rid of them. So it was a complete shock when I opened the door and found that there waiting for me. So it brought up a lot of stuff. As I said, I was extremely traumatized. I was extremely hysterical. And the interesting synchronicity was that I discovered this less than an hour before I was supposed to do a 15th strand DNA activation reading for my soul sister, Maureen, who's teaching the alchemy part in the Leo Divine Royalty Goddess Journey as a part of the Galactic New Earth Project. So here I'm trying to get myself together to come into this meeting with her for this 15th strand DNA activation. So what happened is let me see where I am here. Okay. Oh, I wanted to tell you before I get into the whole DNA activation thing, I wanted to remind you that when we activated that 15th strand of DNA, that's when I received the lost wisdom on the dragons, and then on the lunar eclipse, that's when I did this video journal on the Taurus lunar eclipse regarding the synchronicities of the constellations between each of the 7 eclipses that happened over the last 2 years on this Taurus Scorpio axis and this lost wisdom of the dragon. Okay, now where are we? All right, so, whoops, sorry. Bringing you up here to the information that came through around the sacred masculine's descent into the underworld and what was going on with the Christ work, that it was in the sky, signaled in the sky at the 15th strand of DNA. Okay, so I go into my session with Maureen to do her 15th strand DNA activation reading. And of course, I'm still like hysterical, in tears. And so we start doing shadow dancing around what transpired to try to help me process some of this so that we could do the 15th strand DNA activation reading. Well, of course, the first question I asked myself before I even got on the call with her, which was one of the first questions that she asked me, is, this incredibly, I'm sorry, I'm losing my words because it's still a little traumatizing for me to talk about it. This incredibly horrific, violent act somehow ended up on my front door. And so, if you believe in the law of attraction, my question to myself, her question to me is, why did you attract this experience to you? What is the message that you need to receive from this experience? So right off the bat, I could own that it was certainly a powerful manifestation of patriarchal energy that had come to my front door. It was very interesting to me that this event happened within this portal of perception where the Venus gate activated the 3rd chakra on October 10th, and that whole window stays open until next month, November 9th, when the portal of communication at the throat chakra is activated. So the fact that this traumatizing event showed up at my front door within this portal of perception was part of the message. What is it that I need to see about this experience? And what I was aware of was that clearly my feelings, and specifically my anger and grief towards the dark forces, towards the patriarchy, go much, much deeper and are much, much stronger than I had ever realized, because I was aware from the activation of the portal of perception and through the eclipses that I was having a lot of shadow pieces around the patriarchy coming up. And of course, when I was talking to Maureen and we were doing this shadow dancing, I had on the screen the chart for the 15th strand of DNA activation. And that's when my attention was brought to an aspect in the sky that I just completely missed when we were doing all of the teaching on the 15th strand of DNA. And quite frankly, I had missed in the readings that I had done for my other clients on this 15th strand of DNA. and it was about the Christ and Yeshua. And I'm going to share that with you in a minute. And then as we were still shadow dancing through all of these downloads that I was getting, the question that came into my mind is, wow, would I have even been able to receive this download about Christ and Yeshua if I had not experienced the trauma, if I had not seen that massacre, outside my front door? Would I have been able to have the download come into my awareness around what's going on with Christ and Yeshua? And so all of that stuff was coming up as Maureen and I were doing the shadow dancing piece around Operation Scorched Earth. And so let me share with you now what it was that I began to see very clearly. I mean, it just was like, boom, here it is in your face. And of course, this whole experience was like, boom, here it is in your face. You cannot miss this. So this is the 15th strand of DNA activation chart. And so everything was focused on this opposition and the stars that were informing the opposition of this right here, Venus and Moon together with Thecla being the gate activation at 1 degree of Virgo, standing across from the Magdalene, your inner Sophia, at 28 Aquarius, and Saturnia retrograde at 1 degree Pisces. Everything was focused on that. Well, all of a sudden, as I said, my awareness was brought here. Scorpio energies, right? Taurus, Scorpio energies, where that lunar eclipse happened just 3 days before in Taurus. And, Scorpio energies is all about death and rebirth. In fact, Pluto, also known as the Lord of the Underworld, rules Scorpio. And so all of the frequencies around Scorpio are all about alchemy, are all about the death and rebirth mysteries, all about transformation, transmutation. And specifically because the Taurus Scorpio axis is the path of intensity, which has to do with the Kundalini energy, the life force energy, the energy that gets activated when you're making love to somebody and you have an orgasm. That's Kundalini energy being activated. The shadow side of Scorpio has to do with all of the taboo ways in which power is used to subjugate and control others. Specifically because of this life force energy, it has to do with the way that sex and sexuality are used to as a power mechanism to victimize others, to abuse others, to control and manipulate others. And so all of those taboo issues, which people don't like to talk about or look at in terms of sexuality, incest, rape, human trafficking, because we know that really at the root of human trafficking is that whomever is being trafficked, whether it's children or adults, that they're being trafficked so that they can be sexually abused, whether it's through satanic ritual abuse, or whether it's to be able to siphon off adrenochrome, or whether it's to also eventually harvest their organs. So these are all very taboo subjects that are hidden in the deep, dark places that nobody wants to look at, nobody wants to talk about. Okay, that's the shadow side. So now in those frequencies, what do we see? Well, before we talk about what we see here in Scorpio, let me just go back to that October 1st date on the timeline when the sacred masculine descended into the underworld from the Libran energies at 22 degrees of Libra. Remember that this event in the synodic cycle of Mars, who represents the sacred masculine, is a shamanic initiation. It is a death by intent event when he goes into the underworld. And so the overall theme in terms of this underworld journey, which will complete January 9th of next year, 2024, is that the sacred masculine is working to bring balance back to the masculine energy, to bring the energy away from that patriarchal energy that dominates, controls, that abuses the power, and bring it back to sacred energy. Because I've always said the difference between the sacred masculine and patriarchal energy, as the masculine energy that has been on this planet for thousands of years, is that the dark forces, and through their minions of patriarchy, usurped the sacred masculine energy and they made it profane. And so here we see, through this particular synodic cycle for the sacred masculine, this descent in the underworld with this overarching theme and intention and desire. We're bringing the balance of power back into sacredness. Okay, that's the first piece to understand, so that you can understand, okay, well, what's going on here with the Cosmic Christ and the inner Christ and Sekhmet being here in this 12th house. I know you can't see it because of the line, but above it is 11, below it is the first. This is the 12th house, where Osiris as the Cosmic Christ, Yeshua as the inner Christ, and Sekhmet as the goddess of divine grace, mercy, and compassion are in a fairly close conjunction, about 7 degrees from 12 to 19 degrees, right here in this 12th house. So what started coming through, I mean, it was like rolling off my tongue. Oh my goodness, look at this that we didn't see before. Why didn't I see it before? Because this orb of degrees 12 to 19th is completely outside the window of what's happening over here around 1 degrees. That's why my attention was not brought there initially. So in the 12th house, right? The 12th house, this is representing Scorpio in the 12th house, representing all the ways the dark forces and patriarchy have attempted to block humanity from having access to their divine self, their Christ self. And so here we've got the Cosmic Christ and Yeshua as our inner Christ right here in the thick of it, right? In the bowels of it, to clear out all those blocks that the dark forces and patriarchy have created to keep humanity's in consciousness separate from the fact that they are both human and divine, and to keep humanity shut down in terms of knowing that they have access to their divine self, to their Christ self, without having to go through some external authority figure as an intercessory on their behalf. So here we've got the Cosmic Christ, the inner Christ, in the bowels of this dark evil, clearing out all these blocks that have been put into place for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years on this planet. And who is standing guard as the sentry while they're doing this work? The goddess of divine grace, mercy, and compassion, Sekhmet. Sekhmet, who is a Leo goddess. Remember, Venus is having this Leo divine royalty goddess journey. And Thecla, who is up here, represented by Lilith, and Sekhmet are our two goddesses for this Leo goddess journey. So that was just mind-blowing when that just started pouring through. Then what I realized is, oh my goodness, look across the sky over here in Taurus. Here we've got Jupiter at 13.5 degrees, Jupiter retrograde. And where does that fall? It falls right between Osiris as the Cosmic Christ and Yeshua as the inner Christ. And Jupiter acts as the cosmic guru on one hand, and on the other hand, amplifies everything that it comes into contact with. And so what I could see here from this placement, and remember that Sophia gave me the download that oppositions in astrology are the fundamental aspect for alchemy, because I've always said that what happens from both ends is they blend their frequencies together to make something new, brand new up here at a higher vibrational set point. That is the definition of alchemy. And Sophia shared that perspective with me around that in this portal of perception that was activated on October 10th. So what we see here in terms of Jupiter's placement across the sky from Osiris and Yeshua is that he's amplifying the Christ light that is rooting out the source of all evil. And because Taurus does represent our physical bodies, our sacred temples, especially all of our senses, our sensory self, what's happening through this underworld journey with the sacred masculine and what's been happening on this Taurus Scorpio axis with the lunar eclipse, and now this traumatic event that I experienced on Halloween. You've probably have had your own traumatic experiences with patriarchy showing up because of this, clearing out that Christ and Yeshua are doing on our behalf. You are going to feel it in your body. Anger, grief, fear, whatever it is that comes up, you're going to feel it, and you must allow yourself to feel it, and you can let the tears come. And we'll talk more about the tears in a little bit, okay? All right, so this was the first piece in terms of the shadow dancing with Maureen while I was looking at this chart of the 15th strand DNA activation, because we hadn't even started her reading yet that came through. Then this next piece came through about the sacred masculine. Notice that on the day of this 15th strand DNA activation, this is October 10th, all right? This is 4 days before the Ring of Fire solar eclipse, 5 days before we actually, as a galactic New Earth tribe, did the activation ceremony with our quantum crystal quartz technology, okay? What I see is that the sacred masculine, still in Libra at 28, remember he made his descent into the underworld when he was at 22 degrees. Here he is at 28, and he's standing across the sky from the North Node in Aries at 25 degrees. This is happening on this pathway, Aries-Libra pathway of conscious equal partnership. The same pathway where the solar eclipse took place in Libra 4 days later, okay? So the North Node this is important because the North Node represents humanity's evolutionary GPS. Where is humanity being evolved to at this time? And so with the North and South nodes on this Aries Libra axis, the quick answer is humanity is being evolved towards conscious equal partnership. Okay, but these are the pieces that started jumping out about this placement of Mars as the sacred masculine standing across the sky from the North Node. First of all, what you should be aware of is that Mars is the Lord of Aries. This is his playground. And the shadow side of Aries, right? We're going to look at that because with this Taurus Scorpio axis, we're looking at shadow stuff, wounds of the patriarchy that show up as shadow pieces, pieces of ourselves that we have judged, that we have rejected, that we have separated from ourselves, that need to come back into our field for healing and brought back into wholeness with us and unity consciousness. So what is the shadow side of Mars? It's war. War. What happened with Operation Scorched Earth outside of my front door? War. Those wasps were taken out systematically in an unexpected event. Okay, so what we're seeing here with this opposition, and this was all in the sky as early as October 10th, okay? And I missed all of this until the end of the month, October 31st, when this started coming through, is that we're seeing that in the 3D matrix reality, the dark forces and their patriarchal minions are attempting to prevent humanity from evolving into conscious equal partnership, which is where we're headed through this pathway. And they're attempting to thwart that evolution from unfolding in a peaceful way by doing what they always do, which is war, war, and more war. And you can see it in your external reality on the global stage. And the sad thing is, as I told Maureen, you know, this is like what you see happen with a cornered rat. A cornered rat will viciously attack you. And that's basically where the dark forces and their minions are. They are cornered and they're in the death throes and they are viciously attacking by creating war in all of the ways that they can. Whether it's just through a media campaign or whether it's through false flag events, however they're trying to manipulate it, they're trying to manipulate this energy of war against humanity in the minds of humanity to spiral them down into the lowest frequency of fear so that they cannot evolve into conscious equal partnership. But I'm here to tell you, and they know it, they absolutely cannot prevent this evolutionary process from unfolding within humanity and for humanity. So those were two big pieces of wisdom around what else was going on in the chart at this 15th strand DNA activation, relevant to what happened later with the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse, that Sophia on October 31st wanted me to get before she made that ingress from Libra into Scorpio. She needed me to have that breakthrough in consciousness And this Operation Scorched Earth was a part of bringing that consciousness to me, right? Allowing the trauma of that to force the breakthrough in consciousness I needed to have. So as we were shadow dancing, Maureen and myself, more clarity started to come through. It was clear that attack against my friends of 6 years was an attack on the sacred feminine. I mean, whatever poison they used to spray on the wasps just burned the life out of them. They couldn't even escape. They just fell to the ground, dead. Now, before I even got on the call with Maureen, as I was in my hysteria, somehow the wasps were able to pierce through that emotional response to let me know that they had actually volunteered themselves by participating in Operation Scorched Earth to support the Christ in rooting out the evil. And remember what I said about some of the medicine related to wasps is that they have this medicine of self-sacrifice. And here they clearly demonstrated this medicine by agreeing to be the catalyst, volunteering for this mission to be the catalyst, not only for me personally, but for Sophia, so this breakthrough in consciousness could happen with the wisdom that needed to come through around the Christ, and of course for humanity, so that I could share this wisdom with you. And as we were looking at, all of these things here on this Taurus Scorpio axis, around the downloads that I was getting and discussing, the trauma I was experiencing around what had happened and how it's serving me, I started to have more clarity around the Taurus Scorpio axis. I started getting more downloads about what's encoded in this axis, this relationship path of intensity. And remember, the word intensity is referring to that life force energy, that creative, regenerative life force energy, which is your chi, which is your kundalini, which is your shakti, whichever those words that you relate to, that's what it is. Okay. So this is what came through about the Taurus Scorpio axis. What you need to know, which we have been studying in our teachings on the through the Galactic New Earth Project, we've been studying alchemy. And at the crown chakra, when that was activated in September, we were working with that chakra with the first step of alchemy called calcination. Now we were down here this month of October, or last month of October, activating this portal of perception. So what happened is now we're starting again at step 1, calcination for the portal of perception, and with the crown chakra, the portal of authority, we had moved from calcination to the second step, dissolution. So we were working with these first 2 steps of alchemy, and Maureen was sharing the teachings around these. And what you need to understand is, as the first step in alchemy, calcination is specifically known as purification by fire. Dissolution, the second step, is specifically known as purification by water, which is why I made a big point to say back here, the poison burned the life out of the wasps. It was like the fire just took their life force away. Boom, instantaneously. That was a part of the calcination process, purification by fire. And so Maureen was talking to me about, okay, let's move now into dissolution, purification by water. And this is where the tears come, right? The tears help to release, let go of the trauma. They help to purify everything that happened around the traumatic event, what's being stored in the cells of your physical body through the tears, letting it go. And so what was fascinating to me is that these first two steps of alchemy are encoded in this Taurus Scorpio axis, because Taurus is an earth element, and you need earth to start a fire, right? Wood is earth. Start the fire. And for dissolution, purification by water, Scorpio on the other side is a water element. So whether you cry it out, whether you step in the shower and, or soak in the bathtub, whatever you need, go swim in the ocean, whatever you need to do with water to help purify from that element. So this was fascinating that this piece, because we are studying alchemy through the Galactic New Earth Project, came forward. I've been saying that oppositions are an alchemical aspect. I've been saying that Scorpio is all about alchemy. So this deeper level of understanding regarding what's encoded in the Taurus Scorpio axis was absolutely very fascinating. And then as we looked closer and closer and processed more and more, we realized that because of this alchemical pathway that is the path of intensity, also built into it are the problem and the solution, the wound and the healing for the wound, the trauma and the clearing of the trauma. And all of these three things is exactly what is being engaged back here with the Cosmic Christ and Yeshua and Sekhmet in Scorpio, standing across from Jupiter and Taurus. The problem and the solution, the wound and the healing of the wound, the trauma and the clearing of the trauma. It's just flipping unbelievable that out of such chaos and out of such pain, that there was space for all of this stuff that I'm sharing with you to come through and show up. Okay, let's look at the next piece. All right, so now we're going to look at, what was going on with the Ring of Fire solar eclipse and Samhain, and this message from Sophia about the beacons of Gondor being lit in relationship to the Ring of Fire solar eclipse. Okay. So this is what Samhain is. Now, Samhain is a Gaelic word, and I know it looks like Samhain or Samhain, but it's pronounced Samhain. It's a Gaelic word. So what is Samhain as a celebration? It's what in the priestessing world we identify as one of the cross quarter points. So you've got your faith, your basic quarter points, your eclipses and your solstices. And in between the solstices and the eclipses, you have 4 cross quarter points. And Samhain is the cross quarter point that happens between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. Okay. Now, as an event, the ancient Celts marked Samhain as the most significant of the 4 quarterly fire festivals or cross-quarter points. And as it says here, it takes place at the midpoint between the fall equinox, I call it the autumn equinox, and the winter solstice. During this time of year, hearth fires in family homes were left to burn out while the harvest was gathered. After the harvest work was complete, celebrants joined with Druid priests to light a community fire using a wheel that would cause friction and spark flames. The wheel was considered a representation of the sun and used along with prayers. The participants then took a flame from the communal bonfire back to their home to relight the hearth. So, Samhain essentially is about lighting the hearths, right? Which is why this was an opening for Sophia to say to me, the beacons of Gondor have been lit. Okay, so let's go over here. And here's another image of the beacons of Gondor from The Return of the King, Lord of the Rings movie. And let's look at how that announcement, you could even say cosmic proclamation, was made by the Cosmic Sophia, divine wisdom, around what was going on at this solar eclipse. Okay, so this is where the solar eclipse took place. You see the sun and the moon conjunct there. It took place in Libra, and it happened on this Aries-Libra axis of conscious equal partnership, as I've repeatedly shared. And when it took place, it was standing across the sky from Chiron, the cosmic shaman, and again, the north node at about 25 degrees. And what's interesting is you'll notice that it's making a T-square to Epona in Cancer. This is a big deal. We need to go into this. I did not go into this before, and you've got to know what this wisdom and medicine is all about for all of this to tie together. I did talk about Yeshua and Sekhmet being across the sky from Uranus at that time. Remember, this is 4 days after that 15th strand of DNA activation and portal of perception, and Osiris is right here. The orb between these 3 luminary bodies were not, well, that's not true. They were the same as 4 days earlier. I don't want to get off track here. I don't want to digress, but I didn't get the big piece, a message that wanted to come through around it. And you can see that this end of the opposition is making a semi-sextile to the solar eclipse, and this end of the opposition is making a semi-sextile to this part of the solar eclipse opposition. I call these semi-sextiles sacred helpmates. What's happening here on the Taurus Scorpio axis is feeding into what's happening here with the solar eclipse as a sacred helpmate, and vice versa, because remember, 2 weeks later, there's going to be a lunar eclipse on this axis. But for now, what Sophia wants me to remind you of is what's happening here at the stem of this T-square. I've got to share that with you because I didn't share it before. It needs to come through. The other couple of things that she wants me to just repeat, I know I've said it in some videos recently, but for everybody to be aware of and to make sure of, that this, when we activated the 15th strand of DNA the day after this solar eclipse, That's when I got the lost wisdom about the dragons and how they represent that Kundalini energy of this Taurus Scorpio pathway. And it's because the dragons, through this solar eclipse, were ready to come back into conscious equal partnership with humanity after having been expelled. Their consciousness and the wisdom around them had been expelled or expunged by the dark forces and replaced with the evil serpent. Okay. Also, what happened at this solar eclipse is that Mercury here has had his relationship with us evolved into a more conscious, equal partnership out of the old patriarchal role of being the messenger of the gods into a more conscious, equal partnership where he is now the placeholder for how we are able to receive transmissions directly from our divine self, whether it's the divine self above as your oversoul, your divine oversoul, your divine template, your higher self, and also your inner divine self, your soul, that I call your inner sacred flame, which is your inner Christos Sophia. Okay. So all of that transpired with this solar eclipse and has been bit by bit coming into my awareness since that eclipse took place on October 14th. And now here's the piece about the T-square and why do you have to know it? Look at what's happening up here with Yeshua and Sekhmet. They are making a trine to the base of this T-square, to Epona retrograde. Remember, retrograde is everything that happens within you. It's going to make more sense in a moment. In Cancer, this is the path of most allowance for everything that's happening at the solar eclipse to unfold with its connection to this Taurus Scorpio axis, Yeshua and Sekhmet across from Uranus. Okay, so let's get into Epona. Now, what you should be aware of is we've talked about Epona in terms of the Leo frequencies, the Lionheart wisdom, the bonfire medicine, and Epona had that big transmission come through me that I did regarding her medicine around the horses carrying, being emissaries of Christ. And so that video journal, I don't remember if it's on my YouTube channel. It's definitely on Patreon. You'd want to see that. But what started happening very quickly over this month as people were getting these readings, whether they were the eclipse readings or the 15 strand DNA activation readings, I look at what's in their natal chart, what's in their solar chart, and I started to see Epona in these different frequencies, different astrological signs, which are different frequencies. And she started to reveal herself in terms of medicine related to the different astrological signs. And so this is the medicine that she gave me. Boom. I didn't even have to shuffle for a card. She showed me this card and said, this is the medicine that I carry for the Cancer energies. And this card here is known as the Keeper of the Mysteries. And you can see here that it is a mare-headed goddess. Okay, and this image was created by Kim McElroy. All right, let's get into the myth behind the mare-headed goddess, and let's get into the medicine of her as the keeper of the mysteries that is relevant to everything that I'm discussing and sharing. Okay, so, oops, sorry. What we see here in this image is that a dove right here and a dolphin right here are leaping from the hands of the mare-headed goddess. The mare-headed goddess is a figure so ancient and mysterious, she was almost lost to history. So now let's tell you who the mare-headed goddess is. She's actually a form of the goddess Daymater. Daymater is a Mother Earth goddess, and she and her daughter Persephone are well known through the Eleusinian mysteries, the Eleusinian mystery schools. And of course, that whole myth is that Hades comes from the underworld, is enamored with Persephone, and kidnaps her and takes her into the underworld. And so through some negotiations, after much trauma and grieving over the loss of her daughter, the agreement is that Persephone will be allowed out of the underworld for 6 months, and then she has to go back to the underworld for 6 months. And the myth says that this is why we have the 4 seasons, that when Persephone is on Earth with her mother, we have spring and summer, and when she has to go back to the underworld, we have fall and winter. Okay, most people are familiar with that part of the myth, but there's more to the myth. And here we go. When Daymater was in a good mood, she showed up as a white mare, similar to Epona. Daymater, however, had a shadow side, right? What have we been talking about? All this shadow, all of this taboos, abuse that's happened with trying to harness the sexual energy of the Kundalini. Okay. When Daymater grew angry at the arrogance of gods and mortals, she became the vengeful black mare. Unafraid to confront an insensitive patriarchal world where seduction refused could quickly turn to violence. So this is what happened. This is how Daymater became a mare goddess. Poseidon, who is the counterpart to Hades, right? Hades, Poseidon, was after Daymater, just like he was after Medusa, right? He was enamored with her beauty and he was after her. He kept trying to seduce her, and she kept rebuffing him. She didn't want anything to do with him. And he was relentless about his more and more, what would I say, forceful advances. Okay. So Daymater, to try to get away from Poseidon, decides to flee to this mountain village, and she turns herself into a mare to hide amongst the herd of the horses in this remote village, thinking that she can hide from Poseidon and this problem will go away. Well, Poseidon knows exactly what she's done. And he goes to the village and he turns himself into a stallion and he mounts her. And she ends up having a set of twin horses that were also female horses. They grew into mares that were priestesses regarding this kind of work in the world. That's the most I'll say. Okay. So you can see that this medicine as a representation of Epona in Cancer is highly relevant to what's unfolding, right? Patriarchal abuse towards the feminine, particularly through taboo sexual abuses. And of course, we know now that that's no longer just limited to women. Men experience this abuse because we know that both men and women carry an inner feminine and an inner masculine. So it's an abuse against their inner feminine and children. I mean, it's just gotten out of control. So what is the gift from this medicine, the keeper of the mysteries? Daymater meets you in the cave of initiation. Isn't that interesting? Because I remember what I told you, October 1st, the sacred masculine descended into the underworld, and that is a shamanic initiation. Caves are often associated with initiations as well because they're deep and they're dark, just like the underworld, okay? And through this cave of initiation, she holds the promise of peace, prophecy, expanded consciousness, and a deeper, more soulful relationship with nature. The challenge for this medicine is that past traumas must be faced to reclaim the power that was taken from you. Scorpio in its illuminated energy is power. It's your imperial power. It's your Kundalini Shakti power. In its shadow side, it's these past traumas. These past traumas that create the shadow pieces because we reject those parts of ourselves that are too ugly for us to look at. And so in order to reclaim your power, you've got to do the shadow work. You've got to do the shadow dancing. And this is happening for humanity on a global scale. Not only last month with the 2 eclipses that initiated all of this, and the sacred masculine's journey into the underworld that was a huge part of that initiation. But even this month, if you watch my November Creative Energies video journal, you're going to see that these eclipse points are being activated over and over and over again this month before the sacred masculine has his resurrection point on November 18th in these Scorpio energies. Okay. So the key words for this medicine are initiation, intelligence in nature, and borderland personality. This is a big piece of medicine that Sophia wanted to make sure you receive because it is such an integral part of all of this work that's being done. All right. Now, in the video journal that I did around the lost wisdom on the dragons, that I did on the day of the Taurus lunar eclipse, I pulled a dragon card to give you the dragon medicine for the Taurus lunar eclipse. I never got around to doing a dragon card for the solar eclipse. And that's a part of this too, to help you understand this phrase, the beacons of Gondor have been lit. So here we go. Okay. The dragon card that, I barely started shuffling the cards and this one just like flew out of the deck. It's the orange dragon. Interesting because orange is the color most associated with fire, right? Lighting a fire. And this dragon brings soul families and communities together. It spreads belonging, warmth, and oneness. It brings people everywhere together. This dragon medicine is so aligned with the frequencies of the solar eclipse on this Aries Libra pathway of conscious equal partnership, particularly with the Libran aspects of that field. It just blew my mind. So this is an excerpt of about the orange dragon. As the world moves towards the new golden age, soul families and groups are drawing together. Fifth dimensional or orange dragons help light people up so that they recognize each other. They bring fifth dimensional communities together, communities where people cooperate, help each other, and practice harmony and oneness. This is the dragon for the solar eclipse. And before I get into the guidance, let me just go back and show you this chart. I explained to you how Sophia told me that the opposition of all the aspects is the most fundamental alchemical aspect. Well, then the dragons told me that from the opposition, where we get the T square and the grand cross, that in the T square, at the stem of the T, represents where the dragon's tail is anchored. Okay, so all of this medicine about the keeper of the mysteries and it being the path of most allowance for what Christ and Yeshua are doing in the underworld through these Scorpio energies is where the dragon tail, the orange dragon, has his tail anchored. And then the dragons told me, and then if you make the grand cross, across from the tail, of course, is where the fire breath of the dragon comes to illuminate your perception around what's happening through this alchemical process. And of course, we know in Capricorn, if there were a grand cross here, that would have to do with your inner elder, your inner wisdom keeper, your inner way shower. And remember, on October 31st, Sophia was up here at 29 degrees, squaring Pluto down here at 28 degrees, making sure that I had the breakthrough in consciousness that their square was creating for me to get the wisdom that needed to come forward from this path of conscious equal partnership, where this solar eclipse happened on October 14th before she made her ingress into Scorpio. Very important. So this medicine of the keeper of the mysteries and this dragon medicine, very important. The guidance related to the orange dragon is that he is guiding you to see the divine light in everyone. Hold the vision for the golden age that is being prepared, and do your part to bring your community and the world into spiritual accord. This is a message of higher peace. I especially love this dragon because it feels so aligned with the Galactic New Earth Project. This Galactic New Earth Project that I've been working with Sophia on since January of 2022 is all about initially creating the bridge for humanity to be able to bridge across from this 3D matrix reality into the new earth reality. And the new earth is a way of speaking to the golden age, or speaking to paradise, or the Garden of Eden, or Camelot, the return to Camelot. So all of our work through the Galactic New Earth Project has been in the realms of 5D and above. And so I love that this dragon at the solar eclipse is bringing this energy in. And this is why Sophia said the beacons of Gondor have been lit, because what this dragon is doing is it's lighting people up so that they can find each other in their soul families, or whomever. Let's say you have like a soul contract work, so that these communities can come together in conscious equal partnership. Think about the wasps that sacrifice themselves to allow this breakthrough in consciousness to come through. They already live consciously with each other in communities, and they want you to recognize that the solar eclipse has lit you up in a way that is beyond anything that you could have achieved on your own through your own evolutionary progression. Because remember what eclipses do. They align you with where you're supposed to be in your evolutionary expansion. And I've said that specifically with these 2 October eclipses, they are so potent that not only were they aligning humanity, that it gave them like a quantum leap forward in their evolutionary expansion in terms of the ascension. So the beacons have been lit. The hearts within humanity, the sacred flame has been lit, has been enlarged through the fire of this orange dragon, through the ring of fire of the solar eclipse, through the dragons coming back into conscious equal partnership with us, through Mercury coming back into conscious equal partnership to let us be able to receive the transmissions from our hearts and from our divine selves. And so this is a huge leap forward in humanity's evolution and what's going to start to transpire in the external reality in this war against the dark forces to liberate humanity from the slavery that it has been held captive in for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years. So I feel like I've kept my commitment to Sophia by trying to get all of this wisdom out to you in a timely manner and in a way that you could see how all the pieces fit together. I hope it was clear to you. I want to remind you that I still am offering this special eclipse reading promotion. It's really important if you can feel the yes of what I've been sharing with you through my most recent journals and this one today, about being called, being lit up and called back to your soul family to do your soul work in these conscious communities. It's really important to have an eclipse reading so that you can see how those eclipses in October are aligning you with your soul mission and your personal ascension pathway. So the special offer is $135 for my patrons. If you're not a patron, you can become a patron to get the special price of $135. If you don't want to become a patron, that's fine. The regular price is $180. I'm happy to do the eclipse reading for you at that price as well. Whatever works for you. This special promotion is going to expire at the end of this month, November 30th. And if you'd like to schedule this reading with me, just email me here, sophiamonalisa79@gmail.com. Just remember that Sophia is spelled with an F and not a PH. Okay. All right. So I'd like to thank you for sticking with me through this really long journal where I did my best not to stumble over everything that I needed to get out to you. And I hope that at the end of this, that you can feel the immensity of what has happened, the shift that has happened for humanity. I mean, this is what we've been waiting for. We have been waiting for us to show up to save ourselves. And now with these beacons being lit within us, we can do that. We can be proactive and start taking action to save ourselves and to save humanity. And of course, deep, deep gratitude goes out to Sophia, to Christ, to Magdalene, to Yeshua, to the dragons, to Sekhmet, to all of the luminary bodies that are involved in sending through the light codes and the frequencies for this just dynamic explosion to happen within the field, the collective consciousness of humanity, to catapult us this far forward in this quantum way in our evolution, so that we can be liberated finally from the dark forces, to clean the evil off this planet. So until my next video journal, I wish you much love. I express my deep gratitude to all my patrons for supporting my work, and I will see you the next time. Bye-bye.